Hello, good evening. Thank you for joining me on a Thursday evening. My name is Heather. I'm an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator, otherwise known as the Songbird Stamper. And yeah, I'd like to welcome you to my Thursday evening YouTube live this evening. So when I advertised this little kind of get together on YouTube, so come and say hi, I said I'm going to be using some colours that are a little bit new, well, not new to me, but just colours that I don't normally go for. And I've got Old Olive, Blushing Bride, and So Saffron. Not normally colours that I go for. So hey Claire, hey Lisa, how are you doing this evening? And I've got a brand new stamp set and a brand new die set to show you as well to have a play with. So I'm super excited. I actually really love it. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't it? I actually really love what I've created this evening. So I hope you do too. And have a go at kind of having a go for yourself because it's watercolour based. Oh, bored, glad I'm on. Yeah, I'm here. So spend the evening with me, Claire. Unbore yourself. And I've got Mossy Meadow out as well. Mossy Meadow card bases. I don't know if I've used Mossy Meadow very much at all. So I'm excited to get going with that one. Hey Louise, nice to see you. Oh, you're just playing with this one as well. Oh, that's perfect, Louis. Perfect, Lisa. You'll be able to craft along maybe with us. So I've got some ink pads, some watercolor stuff, and some card bases and some watercolor cardstock. And we're going to do a bit of an emboss resist. So I've also got Versamark and the remains of my white embossing powder after it got thrown on the floor yesterday evening. Very sad. I tried to scoop up as much as I could kind of get up, but it wasn't coming up easily. I had to resort to the Hoover in the end, which made me very sad. Let me grab my emboss buddy. Little emboss buddy, if you've not seen one before. It just kind of takes the oils, it lays down like a powder, cornflour type powder. It's filled with that, and so if I drop this now, you get little puffs of powder come out, and it helps to kind of stop the oils in your fingers from making the. Just trying to change the lighting; it's a bit bright. Stops the oils in your fingers from attracting the powder, and meaning that the powder will stick any other places where you don't want it. So that's why we use the Emboss Buddy. It's been a long day today. I've been teaching a class, so excuse me if I don't get my words out. I'm also teaching a class tomorrow and a class on Saturday. And I think the prospect of which is just exhausting me, but I'm really looking forward to them. So card base, standard size card base, 14.5 by 10.5. 14.5 by 21, scored in half at 10.5. And then we've got a piece of watercolor cardstock, Fluid 100 watercolor cardstock, and that is 14 by 10. 14 by 10. And all I'm going to do to begin with is just put my embossing buddy, just lightly tap it all over. And that just means if I've got any oils in my fingers, hopefully they won't leave sticky marks, which can then attract the embossing powder. And I should show you the stamps first, shouldn't I? So lovely little stamp set. I love this font in this one. This one's going to be out, I want to say 5th of January. So 5th of January, this mini catalogue goes live for 4 months until April. Red rubber. Gorgeous, gorgeous images. So that is the stamp set. And this is the die set. Now, I know we haven't had a few like this with all the bits, but I think this is a bit different. It's got this really long, we're going to use this. Well, I don't know if we'll get around to it, but I've made a second card using this one, which I'll at least show you. Whether or not I will get around to kind of playing or not. I might just manage to do the wreath shape and show you. And then you've got the ones that cut out the stamps. So you've got the ones that cut out the stamps, which is fab. And then you've got this one here I really like. It's this shape. So they cut out quite fine. I can't even pick it up. So they cut out these little flower heads. And I love this one. I was really drawn. Now, if you can buy a die set just for one die, I might have got this one. Yes, Louise, I think this is the one that is on the list, your list with the papers. And talking of the papers, I shall show you them now. So these are in the upcoming 5th of January to April mini catalogue. And then in Celebration, which is January and February, you get these cool papers. We're going to use this one. As you see, I've already started fussy cutting. So I'm going to use this one today. So I'll put that to one side. But I love these. I did show these in, I think, my unboxing. But they're both gorgeous. It's called Dainty Flowers, I think. What's it called? Dainty Flowers, yeah, which is quite apt because that's what they are, little dainty flowers. I love that. Now, I don't like Blushing Bride as a colour. I'm going to go out there and say it, but that's really nice. It's a really nice pink. And Blushing Bride can look quite lovely when it's been watercoloured. Just saying. I'm still crying out for, oh, look at that as well. I don't even know what colour that is. I want to say Fresh Freesia, but I didn't think this one had Fresh Freesia in the pack. That watercoloured look. So it's kind of lending itself to a watercolour. And I took my inspiration for this card from a piece of this paper. I love this one with the little frames round. Ah, hello, Anita. Good to see you. Good to see you. Oh, 15 minutes. Bless you. Well, I hope whatever you're doing this evening is important, so that you're missing me for something important. But I hope you have a lovely evening. So whatever you're doing. This is the one that I've taken the inspiration from the card for my card. So we're going to be playing with something in the background that looks a little bit like that. And that's the paper. So that's free with the celebration. So if you bought the bundle, the stamps and the bundle in January or February, then you could get this paper. So let's get to. So I've now just gone and touched that cardstock all over it. So I'm just going to pop a little bit of that down again. And then I'm going to grab my stamps. And I'm using this one and this one, I think. So which one's that one? That one. And that one. Yeah. I haven't even really unpacked from the class today, which is bad, isn't it? It's all just a bit of a mess still. Sums up my crafting at the moment. Okay, so I'm going to ink this up in the Versamark, which is like a sticky ink. The sticky ink then means that the powder will stick to the sticky ink. And I'm just going to pop this on. This is going to create our background. So I'm not like massively fussed about where it goes, but as always, I am a little bit particular. So I'm just going to try and remember where I've put them. If you struggle with your eyesight like really badly, and if your light's really bad and you can't see where you've put anything, you can ink, like stamp them up, ink one at a time, and then put it in the powder, heat emboss it, and then you can see that better for the next one. I have managed to do all three there at once, so we'll see how that comes out when I pop it in the powder. I'll try not to throw it all over the floor. It was just the lid. It was just the lid. I'll try not to throw it all over the floor again. Although that was Russ's fault that happened. And where I've tried to scoop it up, I've got lots of black bits in it now. So I'm just inking, putting the powder all over this where I've. And then you can see just about, I've got that really kind of faint background with the white. So I'm going to go ahead and. Hey Mary, nice to see you this evening. I hope you are well. I'm just going to go and heat emboss that, so it'll be a bit noisy for a second maybe. Hello, hello, Carol. Thank you ever so much indeed. Thank you. I'm super chuffed. Super chuffed, nervous, excited, and honoured to be a part of the team this year. Thank you, thank you. And Becky, good evening, good evening. You finally made a live, and I like the congratulations for you as well, making a live. Welcome. So what I've done is just heat emboss those. You can barely see them, but it will all become clear shortly. I'm just going to grab some, like, it should be kitchen roll, but we haven't had any kitchen roll in this house for months, so it's toilet roll. I need to make a purchase. Even toilet roll is expensive, isn't it? It's like £10. £10 for toilet roll. So just getting a little bit of kitchen roll, a little bit of toilet roll on standby, just in case I need it. If you've got a piece of dirty kind of grid paper, you might want to fetch that out as well, just while we watercolour. I'm just popping that underneath. Nothing that's going to pick up colour though. That side's got too much colour on. So I'm just going to use that side there. And then I've got my medium brush from Stampin' Up, my medium brush tip, not the wide one or the thin one. And I'm going to use some old olive to do this with. So a couple of things you can do with watercolouring. You can try and squeeze the pad and pop some ink in here. You can grab ink and pop it on here, or you can use a re-inker. The re-inker is going to be like a really concentrated amount of colour. So I'm just going for the medium bit, which is this. Popping some on a block, and it gives me a nice good palette to work with. I'm just going to get my nice brush nice and wet. It has got water in the barrel, you can squeeze it, but for a technique like this, I just want quite a lot of water to begin with. I want it fairly diluted, but I want some of this kind of stronger pigmented concentrated ink as well. So I'm just going to kind of create myself a little palette. And then what I'm going to do is actually wash my brush off. So this is kind of clear now. And I'm just going to go down and pop some ink. Pop some water all over here. And I'm concentrating in this area, just around where I've stamped my images. I'm not bothering to go all the way up to the top right here. I'm going to leave some white space. I'm going to leave some white space down the bottom and to this side as well. So just getting some water down in a fairly loose manner. And then I'm going to go in and pick up this ink that I've diluted. This is the diluted one, okay? And I'm just going to pop this down. Can you see how I'm almost dabbing the ink on rather than brushing it on? Okay. So that's the rough shape that I want of this watercolour background here. I'm going to try and hold it down in a couple of places. Rinse my brush off again. Can you see here where I've got this really kind of harsh line? I'm actually just going to go in. And I love watercolouring because you can play with it. You don't have to think that one and done. Like, watercolour is very much more of a loose, free medium that you can just go in and keep editing. And I like to try and blend it out to nothing almost. So I'm just going in with plain water around my edges, and that's going to help it flow into the cardstock. And now I'm going to go in and pick while it's still dry. You have to work fairly quickly before it dries. So while it's fairly still wet, just going in and adding some of this darker, more pigmented around this embossed areas. That'll give you some depth and some kind of light and shade areas as well. And you can do some really dark areas and you can have some really light areas. And that's going to give it a lot more interest than if it was just all one colour. But definitely don't feel like you have to do it all in one kind of foul swoop. You get time to go back in afterwards, if you can see what I've done there. So I think I'm actually quite happy with that as a background. I might just add a little bit more dark in there. And then it's just a question of how you want it to dry. So when you're working with watercolours, the water will dry and leave almost like stain marks all over your piece, which I really quite like. Sometimes I really hate it, but you can go back in afterwards and fix them up. So again, I like this medium because you can play around a lot more with it. Yeah, I think that looks good. Now you can't really see so well these, I want to say, lighter areas. I need to learn when to stop playing. Yeah, there is water in the brush, Mary, but I'm just not using it. I'm using a pot of water just because for this kind of thing, and I'm using a paper towel. For this kind of thing, I like to have more control, and I think I get more control when I use a pot of water. Water painters are really good. These are really good because you can travel with them. So you could take them to a crop, you could take them to anything that you want to, and you don't have to have a pot of water. But I think I get more control if I have a pot of water rather than trying to squeeze it. And then you get a big blob where you didn't want it, or nothing comes out when you need it to. So yeah, that's personally the way I do it. So yeah, you get two ways to dry it. One, you can dry it with a heat tool, or you can let it dry naturally. I'm going to let this dry naturally. So some of these areas are darker than my sample piece, I think. But again, I'm okay with that. I think I might just go in and blend that out a little bit. Again, you get loads of time to work with it, and you can even remove colour as well. So if I didn't want so much colour up there, you just literally wet it and then dab it and take the colour away, because this is going to be my faded out to nothing area up here. So you can keep going in and take that colour away. All right, cool. So that's our basic background. I'm going to pop that to one side to dry. I'm not going to try and dry that with a heat tool. I've got other things to do in the meantime, so I don't think there's any need to. And the heat tool, what it will do, I think it causes more of those water marks, those stain marks, like you can see just here, starting to get a few of those stain marks. So it's personal preference, isn't it? What do you prefer? So pop that to one side. I ought to clean that off, but I'm going to go wild. No, I am going to clean it off, I think, just because I know how messy I am. Okay. So now I'm going to bring in some of this design series paper, and we'll have a little fussy cut. I love this one, so I'm going to cut myself one of this. Now the way I fussy cut paper is just cut it out roughly to begin with, and then you can go in a bit more detail. It's hard to cut all the way around neatly when it's still attached to a big piece of paper. So much easier just to chop it out and then come back to it. I'm going to cut out this nice bold, I don't even know what colour that is, but dark purple pink one, because that's going to add a little bit of contrast. And then I want a blue one. No, I've got a little bit of blue in that one, so I'm just going to grab this one. So how has everybody been keeping this week? I hope you've been keeping well. And there's a lot of viruses and stuff going around at the moment. So hopefully nobody's been coming down with anything like that. I am all fully recovered from COVID, which is good. Getting my strength back. I was really tired at my first week back at work, but it was a weekend actually, Friday, Saturday, Sunday I did, I think. And I just dropped off on Friday afternoon, sat at the desk. Could not keep my eyes open, so I had a 10-minute snooze, and I blame it on the COVID. Literally, I just remember saying to my colleague, I'm really tired. And the next thing I remember, I woke up. about 10 minutes later. Her head just fell straight on the desk. Luckily, nothing happened. Okay. I quite like fussy cutting paper. It's not as difficult, like physically difficult, as cutting card. So the scissors kind of glide through it quite nicely. It is a bit fiddly, I'm not going to lie. This is not fussy cutting for the faint-hearted. But it's such a nice effect, so it's totally worth it. And you never have to go all the way in. Can you see how I'm just leaving these middle bits out? There you go. So I've not cut all the way into those middle bits. It's a really common mistake, I think, when fussy cutting. People think they have to go too far into the middle. Okay, my next question is, who is ready for Christmas? Who is feeling Christmas and who is ready for Christmas? I'm not either. I'm not either this year. For some reason, struggling with it all, to be honest. I feel like I could quite happily delay it by a month and have it in January. I'm not ready. I'm not feeling Christmassy. I haven't even wanted to get the Christmas decorations up yet, and that is so unusual for me. I'm normally eager back end of November. I don't know what's happened this year. Trees, nothing. We haven't got anything up. Haven't done anything apart from eating a lot of chocolate. That's the only thing I think I've done for the last couple of weeks. Loft conversion. Maybe that's our reason as well, Mary. We've still got this work going on, and it's been turned into a little bit of a nightmare. I won't go into any detail, but yeah, needless to say, it's not gone smoothly, and I wonder whether that's causing me just a lot of headaches. And yeah, I wonder. So you're hoping to have the loft conversion done before Christmas? I can't remember if you said that was the plan, or are you disappearing from the house over Christmas and kind of jumping into someone else's house and letting them do it all? So with this one, I am going to go into here. I wouldn't normally, but I want to see my background that we've just made, that beautiful watercolor background. I want us to be able to see it. So I don't want to cover up too much. I'm just going to go in here and chop out all these inner bits. Oh, Beck, that's brilliant news. So is that from your pre-order? That came today, did it? I've not the Legendary Rides. I think that's the new one. I'm not all over it because I haven't ordered it. Don't really know anybody that's into bikes, but if you do, that is a perfect bundle. And I've made one of those lantern cards before. They're really cool. I did one with butterflies in the middle, so he'll love it. He will absolutely love it. And it gives you the weekend to play as well, doesn't it? I'm hoping that my pre-order from the new catalogue is going to be here tomorrow. It is in Stamford La Hope. So normally, all things being well, if it gets to Stamford La Hope in the afternoon of one day, it comes to me the next day. So keeping my fingers crossed, because then it gives me the weekend to have a bit of a play before I go back to work next week. Ah, you ordered on the first. Brilliant. Me too. Oh, I should keep my fingers crossed then, Becky. Oh, bless you. You've got family day here on the 27th. Ready or not? It's one of those things, isn't it? Christmas, but you just take people as you find them, I think. Yeah, ready or not, it's happening, and I'm sure it'd be lovely. Hopefully they'll get it done by then for you. And give you a bit more space. Is that going to give you another craft room, is it, Mary? Going to get a secondary craft space. Okay, nearly done. I know this probably isn't the most interesting thing watching me fussy cat, but we're kind of waiting for our background to dry. Okay, cool. So I've gone ahead and die cut a couple of these. Just in, this is basic white, just a couple of those in basic white. And then I've die cut these flowers in watercolour cardstock. So 1, 2, 3 of these. And I'm going to bring my scrap paper back in. I'm just going to watercolour these in So Saffron. Again, not a normal colour for me. See my Christmas jumper? I'm trying to get into the festive spirit. Ah, hey Anne-Marie, you were watching me on silent. No worries. We've not really done... Well, we have done a great deal. We've made a lovely watercolour background. So anybody who's jumped on since hasn't seen that. There's that one. So all I'm going to do is just, like before, I'm going to cover the whole thing in water first. And then I'm going to pick up some ink. Yeah, I'll do it on a block again. I don't need much. I'm just going to pick up some ink on this block and then add that into my flower. You can barely see it. I can't wait for summer again when the light is going to be much better. But I'm just putting darker in the middle and then fading out to light on the outside. And we'll do that same thing on all 3 here. One, two. Just a little bit darker in the center. Lovely. And again, if you want to, you can go back in and kind of remove some of that colour on the tips. If you just want to make that a little bit lighter on the tips, just go in, add a bit more water, and then remove some of that colour. It's just looking a bit dark for my liking. You're being bar humbug this year. I feel like that's me as well. It's so unusual. Are you normally a Christmas, or are you normally kind of indifferent and you've just gone bar humbug this year? It's just too much, isn't it? I just can't. It's just too much. Can't be doing with it. My dad sent over a Christmas list today as well, and I almost felt like turning around saying, "What's the point? Why don't you just buy yourself what you want? I'll buy myself what I want, and we'll just do." And we'll just leave it like that. That's terrible, isn't it? Terrible. Maybe move other stuff out of the craft room to give more space. Oh, that would be nice, Mary. Oh, that would be lovely. So I'm going to go ahead and attach this down now. It's basically dry. I might just give it a quick blast, actually. Just with the heat tool, a quick blast. Oh, there must definitely be something in the air because you're not the first person that I've spoken to that says they're exactly the same. Just can't be doing with it. Oh. So we've got Mossy Meadow card base and I've got an old olive. Look, I love how that sets that off. I wish you could see the light. If I get it in the shade, there we go. Now to stick these down, I'm going to bring in some contraband right now, so don't tell anybody. I fast fuse. I'm still going with it. Anybody's got some spare, you want to give it to me, I'll buy it, obviously. I love it. I just can't. I love the new Stampin' Seal as well, but it's not the same. I like the action Once you've got used to something, it's really hard to switch. So I'm still going. I've got a bit of a stash. I've got a bit of a contraband stash. Okay, so I've used Fast Fuse, or you could use Stampin' Seal Plus or tape, or you could use wet glue, but it needs to be a fairly strong glue because with watercolour cardstock that you've properly watercoloured, you get some buckling. Okay, and you need to be able to stick that down kind of straight. You've still got yours and a few refills. Good for you, Becky. Yeah. I shall be on the hunt soon. I bought a stash off someone else and got enough to keep me going for a little while, but it's going to run out one day. You're the same with Christmas lists. It's time with, yeah, exactly. It's time. I just want to see them and spend time with them, Anne-Marie. Exactly. Right. And now it's just a case of building this up. Okay, so these two little white bits, they're going to go right on the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and stick those on. It's going to be bold and brave. Normally I would kind of place it and lay it out, but I'm just going to go for it because I know roughly where I want them to go. Only because I'm copying the one I did earlier, but cheating a little bit. And that's going to go about there, I think. And then this one's going to come off to this kind of left-hand side. Yeah, we are disappearing for Christmas. We are off to visit family down in Devon, just for a little while. So I am working over the Christmas period as well. So be some at home, some away. Okay, that's going down there like that. Doesn't stick all that well to watercolor cardstock, so you just need to give it a little bit more time than you might do just on normal cardstock. And then this is where I'm just going to lay things out just to make sure I know what I did with this one is I've actually chopped the stem off because I wanted the stem to come underneath and down a bit more to the ground. So you can see what we're starting to build up. And then we've got our 3 flowers there, there, and there. Yeah, I'm going to go for it. That's going to go last. That's going to go there. Oops. And that's going to go about there. And I'm not going to stick all of the leaves down. I kind of want some to stand a little bit prouder. Oh, you South Devon, are you? We have family down in Newton Abbot. Newton Abbot way. I've got a friend in Brixham, so I don't know if I'm going to get a chance because it's a bit of a flying visit. But sometimes I pop past Brixham on our way down there. It is a little bit of a trek to get down to Devon, but you know, it's worth it. And that's going to go about there. I'm just going to leave this little stem. So I could probably have got away with leaving that there. I might want to push that up a little bit though, actually. Okay, I need the next bit. 10 minutes from... No. Isn't that funny? Oh, bye, Carol. Thank you. Yeah, do have a catch up. Have a watch and a catch up, and you'll see the second card that we're going to make as well. If we get a little bit of time, which we hopefully will do. It's a lovely part of the world, Shaz. We just don't get down as much as, you know, as much as we'd probably like to, what with work and everything. So this is just a little bit of scrap. I'm going to bring him back in my embossing buddy. I've already got my embossing stuff out, so it's really, really simple. Love a white embossed sentiment. And I'm going to go, it's nicely in the shape that I would like to use on this one. I just love the font on these. Now I've got these are fairly new to me, these beautiful shapes dies with the hexagon, pentagon, hexagon, I think, yeah, 6-sided. I think that's too big. So I'm just going to grab that one. Yeah, that's the right one, but I need to heat emboss it first. So let's grab that. And then we can just die cut that with the hexagon shape, which I think is lovely. Oh, well, I think that works. The last one I did, I actually cut it out with a flat bit at the top, like that. But I think that works as well. That's fine. We can pop that up onto some dimensionals, I think. And then if we pop that over, I'm just going to try, oh, it's that way. Just going to try and make sure that's straight. Oh yeah, the hexagon with the sentiment looks beautiful. Well, I think it does anyway. And then we can just tuck this a little bit kind of under here, and it just, I think, grounds it. Just so that's just coming out from underneath there. I mean, it's a tiny, tiny minor detail, but I've got it, so I might as well use it. As long as it looks like it comes down from that stem, then all will be well. And then last but not least is I've got these flowers, and all I'm going to do is just curl them gently, gently at the edges. Pop a little bit of glue on the back. And then add them to my card here. So I'm just kind of tucking them underneath the flowers, and then this one's just going to go right on top. I think, or up here. I want it there. There we go. The one last thing to do, and I'm just going to grab some rhinestones, basic rhinestones, and my Mossy Meadow. I'm going to put this die away before I lose it. I've got my dark Mossy Meadow stamping blend. Of course, you can colour these in. And I just want to colour in. I mean, it does, I won't lie, doing this will damage the nibs of your pens. But I don't colour with those nibs, I colour with the bullet nibs. So for me, I'm okay doing that. But if you colour with your brush nibs, you really might not want to. And I'm just going to add a few of these. And that's one of our cards. And you can see how the watercolour background with that embossed resist, you can, like, you barely see it, like properly see it, but it really adds to the depth of the card. Thanks, Anne-Marie. And I love how the watercolouring here comes out to achieved right at the beginning, where we put quite a lot of water down and then didn't paint up to the edge. We just let it run naturally. Oh, thanks, guys. The new opaque gems, white, pinks and purples. I got those, Becky. Were they on the PPP? Or are they coming? Oh, don't let me think. Oh, I don't think I ordered them. That's disastrous. Thank you, Shaz. Thanks, Carol. Really, really pretty. Really lovely set. And I love how the dies and the stamps and the papers all work together. So that's card number 1. I have got a second card for you. I'm going to show you the finished card. This is the second one. And I've kind of created a wreath. So I'm going to show you how I've created the wreath. And then we probably won't get time to finish it. But it's just a case of die cutting some of these little flowers. Come on, camera. And then watercolouring those. And die cutting these flowers that we did before and watercolouring those as well. But I'll show you how to make that wreath shape. And the first thing I did was grabbed a circular die. Holding off till January. Bless you. Yep, it will come soon enough. We don't need all the new things straight away. I keep telling myself this. I don't listen to myself. But it is true. We do not need all of the new things straight away. We've got 4 months to this catalogue. But I don't take my own advice. So I'm just putting the die there right in the middle, kind of not right in the middle of the cardstock, but to the middle towards the top. And I'm just going to really lightly draw around it in pencil. Now, when you watercolour, if you were to watercolour over that pencil mark, you then won't be able to rub it out again. It's okay on here because there's so much going on. I'm not actually going to need it. And we can rub it out after we've embossed, because that's the first thing that we're going to do. But if you were to add watercolour on top of pencil, it's almost impossible to remove it. So just a top tip for you. So now we've got our pencil mark round here. I'm just going to use the emboss buddy again and emboss buddy that area. And then I'm going to grab a stamp out of the stamp set. I'm going to grab this one. I'm not going to mount it on a block because I don't want the whole stamp. Can you see how the whole stamp's a bit cumbersome to go around here? I just want this top bit to show. So all I'm going to do is ink up that top bit and then stamp with my fingers. And I'm just going round and round in the circle. And there's no, and this isn't scientific, you can barely see this once the card's all finished. So in reality, it doesn't matter if you overlap some, if you have little breaks. But I'm just getting some ink down on there. And then I will, I've done it again. And now it's all gone on the floor. So I haven't got any more. Oh no, it's all over my desk. Oh, this is a disaster. Right, hang on. This might be recoverable. I don't know what it is with this embossing powder. It clearly does not want to be used. Is it giving me a sign or something? Right, let me scrape it all off there. I've never dropped my embossing powder. And that's twice in like 3 days that I've just dropped the whole container. Okay, I was lucky there. The whole container's ended up on the floor and the embossing powder's ended up on my desk. Very lucky. Okay, so all I'm going to do now is just go round, and any little extra bits that I've managed to get on the outside, I'm just going to put the lid on this. I don't know, Lisa. I don't know what is going on with that. I've never dropped my embossing powder in 5 years of crafting, and I've just dropped it twice in 3 days. Very lucky. Otherwise, we'd have had to stop there and then. And no project because I've got no embossing powder. Okay, I've got a few little gaps. Just a little gap there and a little gap there. But honestly, it doesn't matter. Okay, by the time you've got all of this going on, you're not going to notice. I can't believe that. Right, hang on. And again, it doesn't matter if you can still see a little bit of it. It's not the end of the world because you're going to cover up so much of this with everything else that's around here. Oh no, Shaz, how did it ruin the Hoover? Don't tell me the heat melted the heat embossing powder because I hoovered mine up yesterday. Oh, that's a nightmare. I hope I haven't ruined. Not that our Hoover's any good to begin with, to be honest. It's rubbish, but really don't need to be ruining my Hoover. It was only a little bit left. It's only a little bit on the floor now. Most of it all went over the desk, luckily. Okay, so that's that. We are now going to watercolour this. So we need our old olive back again. More flexible takeaway marks. Maybe I just need like, or I don't know, a bib. Don't know what I need. Okay, so I've just picked up a little bit of a paint palette here again, and I'm going to do exactly the same thing as before. So just water to begin with, and pop some water down. I think that's my biggest tip when watercolouring. And go all the way out to the edges. The water, when it dries, you almost can't put too much water on, basically what I'm getting at. So come in, not all the way to the middle, but coming into the middle, coming out to the outside, making a nice big circle all the way around. Because then when that dries, oh no, the powder melted. Oh, Shaz, that is bad news. Shh, don't tell my other half. Hopefully we'll be okay. And then, so when the water dries, if you've not got any ink on it, it's just going to dry clear. So you won't even notice that you've put water there, but the water is just going to help this ink just to, can you see how it's just flooding away from that main image? And it's that gives you that nice faded out to white look. Oh, what a disaster. Hoovering it up and then melting and it ruining your hoover. I hadn't even considered that. I tried to scrape as much of it up as I could. I didn't want any of it to go to waste. Right, so that's basically that. I am just going to go in and add a little few touches of dark right round the middle. And again, as long as your piece is still wet enough, why you can't really go too wrong with quite a lot of water to begin with. As long as your piece is wet enough, you'll be okay. And like here, I can always just go in and add a bit more water. And anywhere where you want to sort of soften those lines a little bit, you can just go in and touch that up. I think I'm happy with that. Maybe I need a little mermaid to steady my hand. Maybe that's it, Becky. I can't even claim cold at the moment because we've got the heating working again. So I don't know what it is, but something's obviously going on. Okay, so I need my dies. I'm going to leave the ink out. Just going to let that dry for a second. I will probably have to blast that with the heat gun. And I'm going to grab, I think I'm just a bit all in a tiz at the moment. I need to have a good tidy up of my craft room. I think that is one thing that definitely needs to happen. And I'm just going to cut 2 of these big long ones. Okay, so I'll be back in just a sec. So this is number 1. And they are gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous leaf shape. Oh, it's a nightmare, Anne-Marie, isn't it? Yeah, mine's not horrific, but it's really not great. Stuff everywhere. I've got too many projects on the go. I've got classes left, right, and centre. I've got artisan projects. So I think I've just got too much on the go at once. I need to like one thing at a time. So what I'm going to do is cut this down. So I've chosen to cut it here. I'm just bending that round. It looks really funny at the top. That's okay. It's all going to get covered up. I'm just going to chop that end, and I'm going to cut these down into 4 pieces because it's too big. I mean, that's too big for kind of a wreath, which is what we're going to create, kind of a wreath shape. So I'm just going to cut that one down again as well. And then that one off at the end. Grab back in my little piece of watercolour paper. You could absolutely leave these white if you wanted to. You don't have to watercolour these. I am just going to add a little bit. I'm going to try and keep it quite light. So add a little bit of water and then a little bit of colour to these. The temptation is to go quite dark. I almost want to leave them quite light. The sample I made, I went really dark with. Can you see I've just got a hint of colour? Literally just a hint of colour on there. And that's going to help them stand out, I think, against the background. And I'll show you the difference then between the one that I did in preparation, which I made quite dark, and this one, and you'll be able to see which one you prefer. Again, I'll probably just give these a blast with the heat gun. If you were working on your own, you might just decide to wait, and rather than try and dry them, I'll give them a quick zap. See, I've managed to get darker and darker as I've gone along there. It's quite hard to try and keep nice and light. Okay. So again, this is going to go down with a little bit of strong glue. It does warp, like I said. It will dry flat again eventually, but you can just help it to stick flat by using a nice strong glue. Only putting a nice strong glue is you've got to make sure that you get it stuck down right the first time, and not all skewy. So that's your wreath base, and then all you're going to do is add these round in a big circle like that. So I'm going to go and stick those down, and then you can properly see. But can you see the difference already in the one that I did earlier, where the leaves were quite dark? There's nothing wrong with that at all, but it's just a different effect here with the lighter leaves. And then where you've got those joined lines is where you put your flowers over. And then just overlapping that. Overlapping that join there with a leaf so that you can't really see it. The trick with the Tombow as well, if people sometimes find that Tombow is quite difficult to control, always leave the nozzle in contact with the cardstock. That will really help you to get a less out, basically. It can't go anywhere because the nozzle's in contact with the paper, and it stops it from spurting out so much. Look, I told you, it doesn't stick as well to the watercolor cardstock. And then this one's just going to go on last, just tucking underneath. So I've left the top, the little bit of that one there, I've left that up and not glued down, so I'll be able to get underneath that. Tuck that underneath. And then stick that down. And that's how you create your wreath background for your next card. And like I say, just watercolor some more of those flowers and some of those little flowers, add those on, sentiment exactly like we did before, just heat embossed onto Mossy Meadow cardstock, and then fussy cut out a few gems, and away you go, all over it. So that is our 2 cards, nearly made 2 cards, nearly. That's actually our 2 cards, that's the one we made with that sentiment on. Thanks, Becky. Glad you like them. I had fun with that bundle. Yeah, I really enjoyed that. I say really unusual colours for me. Not often I use the kind of green, pink, yellow. It's normally pinks and purples for me, but Blushing Bride and So Saffron and Old Olive comes out a few times, but Mossy Meadow, really unusual colours for me to work with. So nice to show you something a little bit different this evening. Thank you very, very much for joining me, spending your evening with me. Thanks, Anne-Marie. Thanks. Thanks, Louise. My pleasure. My pleasure. I wouldn't do the Thursday evening lives if you guys didn't come and watch. So thank you very much indeed. Oh, thanks, Carol. It's my absolute pleasure. Sharing is what I love to do. But really glad that I've got somebody to share with. So thank you. Any of the supplies that I've used here today, obviously this bundle and the celebration paper is not available till January. But any other of the supplies that I use in my videos, as long as it's current, you'll be able to order it from my online store. The link is in the description below. If you like what you've seen, please do subscribe. And for those that have stuck with us, thanks very much indeed. Everybody watching on catch up, thank you very much indeed. And I will catch you all again next Thursday evening for another YouTube live. Thanks, Mary. Take care, everybody. Thanks again. Speak to you all soon. Have a lovely week, lovely weekend. Stay safe, stay warm because it's going to get cold. And I will see you all next week. All right, guys. Bye for now. Bye, guys.